In this Diablo 2 Resurrected build guide, I'm going to be covering the Poison Javazon. This is a beginner build that will comfortably get you through normal, which is the first difficulty of Diablo 2 Resurrected. If you're looking for a beginner Amazon build and aren't sure where to begin, then this guide is for you. The Poison Javazon uses the Plague Javelin skill to throw poisonous projectiles to infect and kill enemies. Poison damage is dealt over time, meaning that you only need to connect with one shot and then wait for your enemies to die in a second or two. The Amazon class can be a little tricky to play at first, as you'll need to pay attention to the amount of javelins at your disposal and kite enemies effectively, but don't let that stop you from picking her, as you'll get used to everything by around the end of Act 1. It's important to note that this build will only remain viable through the first difficulty and up to around level 40. You can still run through Nightmare difficulty if you insist, but I wouldn't recommend it as you'll find much better options at that point in the game. If you are a new player, I strongly recommend you save the respec that you get from completing the first mission Den of Evil. If you do, you'll be able to talk to Akara and respec your character into a different build once you reach the Nightmare difficulty. Most builds in Diablo 2 Resurrected have a stat distribution that focuses on assigning enough points into strength to meet equipment requirements, enough dexterity to reach max block chance, and then assigning everything else into vitality to gain as much life as possible. And while this is true for most builds, it can be confusing to decide when you should assign these attribute points. Strength is a requirement for most equipment pieces of the game. During your first playthrough, you want to have enough points to slot the best equipment for each act. This is 35 strength in Act 1, 45 strength in Act 2, and 60 strength for the remaining acts. From here, you should only assign points into strength if you find an item that is worth the investment. If not, just assign the points into vitality. For most builds, dexterity is important to increase block chance when using a shield, but since javelins have dexterity requirements, you'll need to assign some points here as well to make sure you keep up with equipment. This is 35 dexterity in Act 1, 45 dexterity in Act 2, and 65 dexterity in Acts 3 to 5. After this point, you should only assign points into dexterity if you find an item that is worth the investment. If not, just assign the points into vitality, like strength. All remaining points should be spent in vitality. Increasing vitality will greatly increase your health pool, which is essential to stay alive against large groups of enemies. Vitality also increases your stamina, allowing you to run much further without needing to rest. You won't have many mana issues with this build, so there's no point in assigning points in energy. The Poison Javazon focuses on the Javelin and Spear tree, but you'll be spending some points in the passive and magic tree as well. The Poison Javelin skill is unlocked at level 6, and you'll be using it as your main skill until you unlock Plague Javelin. When you throw a javelin, it'll leave a trail of poison which infects enemies and deals poison damage over a long period of time. Poison Javelin synergizes with Plague Javelin, increasing its damage by 10% for each point you assign into this skill, so it is not wasted. The Plague Javelin does increase damage to enemies and will release a big poisonous cloud on impact, infecting enemies in a very large area. This skill deals more damage than Poison Javelin over a shorter period of time, so you want to start using this as soon as you unlock it. Plague Javelin has a 4-second cooldown between uses, so you'll want to throw a javelin and run around or hide for those 4 seconds, or until your enemies are dead. The Critical Strike skill gives your attacks a chance to deal double the damage on impact. You'll want to spend your first points here, as there's nothing else you can unlock until level 6. The Penetrate passive increases your attack rating, greatly increasing your chance to hit. You can assign more points here if you feel like you are missing too many attacks. The Pierce passive provides your attacks with a chance to pierce through enemies, allowing you to hit more targets. When combined with Plague Javelin, you'll release a poisonous cloud for each target hit this way. For the skill distribution, you'll want to spend your first points into Critical Strike and then focus on Poison Javelin until you unlock Plague Javelin. Here is a comprehensive guide on how to assign your stats early on. The idea here is that you use Poison Javelin until you unlock Plague Javelin and then swap to that. Plague Javelin deals more poison damage over shorter periods of time, so it's the best option. Runes are a special type of socketed item that will not only provide unique properties, but that can also be combined with other runes to create what are called Runewords. Runewords can be formed by inserting runes in a specific order inside certain types of equipment. The item must be normal rarity, able to support the rune word, and it needs to have the same amount of sockets as runes are required. Note that some magical items have sockets on them, and even if you put runes in the right order, the rune word will not be created, and you'll essentially lose your runes, so be sure to use normal rarity items only. While rune words are often referred to as endgame equipment, some of them can be crafted very early in Diablo 2 Resurrected and should not be so hard to come by. If you're lacking a base, you can check with the merchants as they often sell socketed items, but make sure that they are normal in rarity. Runewords are the most reliable way to gear up your character while you advance through the game, so I strongly suggest that you take a look at the complete list on our wiki and periodically check the runes that you have and the runewords that you can craft. I've posted a link to this page in the comments below. Make sure you bookmark it as you'll need to refer to it quite often. Runes can be farmed by doing Countess Runs. The Countess is a super unique monster that can be found inside the Forgotten Tower in Act 1. Each time you kill her, she will always drop between 1 and 3 runes, and their level will depend on the difficulty setting. Elemental resistances are key when trying to survive in Diablo 2 Resurrected. Most enemies deal elemental damage, and having high resistances will mitigate a great percentage of this damage. For this reason, I strongly recommend that you focus on equipment pieces that provide plus resistances during the normal difficulty of the game. You can check your current resistances by opening up the stat menu and looking at the bottom of said menu. Resistances cap at plus 75%, and ideally you want to max all of them when you're reaching the end of normal difficulty. Make sure to periodically check your equipment and balance them out and get them as high as possible. Since loot is random, you won't have control over the equipment that you get during early and even mid-stage gameplay other than creating Runewords. Having said that, there are some general guidelines on the stats that you should be looking for on your items to make sure that your character scales up with the increasing difficulty. For helmets, the first one you want to be on the lookout for is Nadir, which is a rune word crafted from the Neph and Tyr runes and is equipable at level 13. This helmet provides a good amount of defense as well as plus 2 mana after each kill. The next one is the Lore rune word, which can be crafted from the Ort and Soul runes and is available to equip at level 27. If you happen to come across a Soul rune, then you can use it to craft this helmet, which provides plus 1 to all skills as well as plus 30% lightning resistance. You'll need to have a Javelin equipped in order to use your skills, and Javelins come with a limited quantity that will reduce as you use them. Once you run out, you'll need to restock them or you won't be able to attack. This can be done by visiting a merchant such as Sharsi in the Rogue encampment and repairing your equipment. Restocking Javelins can become very expensive, but the starter Javelin has a repair cost of only 1 gold. For this reason, I highly recommend that you keep it even after finding a better Javelin and equip it into your secondary weapon slot. Remember that your damage comes from the poison, not from the Javelin, meaning that you can still use the starter Javelin without issues even at higher levels by just swapping to your secondary weapon slot on the battlefield. When it comes to stats, you want to search for any of these. Keep in mind that these might be found even on magical Javelins, so keep on the lookout when you're visiting merchants. When it comes to shields, you want to be on the lookout for Ancient's Pledge, which is a rune word that can be crafted from the Ral, Ort, and Tal runes and is equipable at level 21. This shield provides a huge boost to resistances. If you can't find an Ort rune, you can make one by combining 3 Ral runes inside the Herodric Cube. The next shield is the Spirit rune word, which is craftable with the Tal, Thul, Ort, and Am runes and is equipable at level 25. If you find the runes in a 4-slot shield, then Spirit is a great option as well. This shield provides plus 2 to all skills, greatly increasing your damage, and provides many defensive stats, such as elemental resistances, faster hit recovery, and vitality. When it comes to armor, you want to look for the Stealth rune word, which is craftable with Tal and Eth, and is equipable at level 17. This is by far the best armor that you can get early on in the game. It allows you to move faster through the map, provides poison resistance and faster hit recovery, which allows you to recover control of your character sooner after each hit. The faster hit recovery is very important, as it usually helps you avoid stun locks when surrounded by enemies. When it comes to gloves, you'll want to focus on defensive stats such as life or resistances, and for offensive stats on attack speed or attack rating. Some gloves may also have plus Javelin and Spear skills, which are great for increasing Plague Javelin damage. Make sure to swap your belt as soon as you reach Act 2 for the maximum amount of potions. Regarding stats, you want to focus on life and resistances. Some merchants might offer magical belts with a lot of life on them, which are a great option. You want to search for faster run and walk speed on your boots as well as resistances to life. Run-walk speed is important to quickly navigate through the map, so make sure to get it. You want to search for rings that give life or resistances as well as attack rating. Similar to rings, you want to find an amulet that provides life or resistances. An amulet that provides plus Amazon skills is good as well. You will find many charms as you advance through the game. While having these in your inventory is great, they can easily occupy a lot of space, limiting the amount of loot you can pick up. Try to focus on plus life, plus resistances, and plus magic find, as these are the most important ones for your build. When it comes to Mercenaries, you want the Act 2 Mercenary since it's the best choice for all builds due to its paladin auras and the ability to equip polearms. Being able to use polearms is very important because many powerful runewords can be created on them, providing various buffs or debuffing enemies. You can recruit this mercenary from Grease and Luke Ghislaine. When it comes to selecting an aura, you'll want to select the Prayer Mercenary found on normal difficulty. The Prayer aura provides heal regeneration, allowing you to survive longer without using potions. Once you reach Nightmare difficulty, you can hire a Holy Freeze aura mercenary, which slows enemies around you, providing great crowd control. You won't have a lot of spare equipment during the beginning of Diablo 2 Resurrected, however you can equip them with any extra equipment you have or buy them a polearm from a merchant. If you happen to spare some runes, make sure to craft an insight rune word on the polearm, as this weapon will greatly increase your mercenary's combat capabilities. Final tips. Doing a couple of Countess runs will give you a lot of runes that will not only be useful for this build, but for any other character that you might make. Make sure to save all runes that you find inside your stash. If you're having trouble finding a base for your Runewords or an item to craft them on, make sure to periodically check on merchants, as they usually have good bases. When you start the game at up to level 6, you'll want to assign the throw attack command to the secondary attack button. Throwing javelins deals a lot more damage than regular attacks. When you're running out of javelins, a double spear icon will pop up on the right part of the screen. It'll remain yellow while you're short on ammo and turn red when you run out. Make sure you repair often to avoid this scenario. If you happen to find a good unique or set item that you like, don't hesitate to swap it with your current gear. I excluded all unique and set items from this guide because there's no reliable way of acquiring them early on. The Amazon has a very low mana pool, so I personally like to run 1 column of healing potions and 3 columns of mana potions. You can also add antidote or thawing potions if you wish. Using these potions will not only cure their respective status effect, but also provide plus 50 resistance to their corresponding elemental resistance. Once you equip an Insight rune word on your mercenary, he will be your main way to recover mana, so make sure to keep him alive by using potions on him. To do this, press and hold shift and then right-click on the potion you wish to use. If you're playing on controller, hold down the left trigger and press the appropriate button on the D-pad. Stay tuned for more Diablo 2 build guides, and be sure to check out our Diablo 2 Resurrected wiki for more information about the game. What did you guys think of this build guide? What classes are you playing in Diablo 2? Let us know in the comments below.